Hi, everybody. I'm Martin Bandyke. Welcome to a 107 one-on-one with a dear friend of ours at the radio station, His Golden Messengers, MC Taylor. New album coming from His Golden Messenger this summer. It'll be out on Merge Records June 25th, called Quietly Blowing It. I was just checking through my calendars, Mr. Taylor, MC, and remembering when you were last at the radio station. Gosh, it was in August of 2019. Saw you performing at the Fillmore with Nathaniel Rateliff. Who would have thought this would have been one of my last concerts here and going on a year and a half? How are you? How have you been the last year, my friend?
All things considered, I'm alive, and
Yeah.
I'm fine. Thank you for asking.
My first question for all of the folks that we're talking to on these 107 one-on-one interviews. Your first single that we heard from the album Sanctuary, I think, just came out at this perfect time for us. And I remember getting pretty choked up when I heard the original lyrics: "Feeling bad, feeling blue, can't get out of my own mind." And I thought, well, MC Taylor has just captured the thoughts of, I think, every living human on Earth right now. When did you write this song and the other songs for your new album? Was it after the pandemic began, or was this before, or what?
Those lyrics and most of the lyrics on this new record were written. I started writing them probably in March of 2020, maybe February. I'm trying to resist calling or thinking about this record, Quietly Blowing It, as a record that would not exist had the pandemic not happened, because I feel like, a big part of Quietly Blowing It is this sort of like overview of, or reckoning with, or taking stock of my life over the past 5 or 10 years. So feeling bad, feeling blue, can't get out of my own mind. That certainly applies to the past year, but it also applies to just, anxiety, depression, stuff that I've struggled with for a long time. So
yeah, you issued a statement that we got at the radio station about having this existential crisis at the end of 2019 when you were finishing up a tour in England, and you canceled a bunch of dates in Australia, and it just seems like this has really been a time of taking stock. So the devil's advocate question, MC, wow, you're a musician. You get to tour around the world and people love you and clap for your songs. What do you have to be anxious or upset about? It isn't all what it appears to be, being a recording artist and being on stage and getting adulation all the time, right?
Right. I mean, I think it's important to acknowledge all of the incredible things that I've been fortunate enough to be able to do because of music. There is something of a trade-off that feels almost biblical sometimes, just in terms of to be able to do the thing that I do, I have to leave. I have to be away from home. So this past year, my son, I have a 12-year-old son, and my daughter is just about 8. And this past year is the most that my kids have ever seen me in their lives. That's something very serious to. It's not something that people thinking about getting into music have to consider, but it's my reality that I have to face, is that being an artist on the level I am, which is not particularly high, it's somewhere in the middle. It can be a real grind. It's no surprise why people that work in the entertainment business end up struggling with substances, with depression, with uh, I mean, it's no surprise to me if you spend a little bit of time in it. And also at the same time, we can acknowledge that the music is magical, and those of us that get to work with the actual stuff of music are lucky to be able to do that.
Yeah, it is magical. I just finished reading the new memoir from Ricky Lee Jones last week,
Yeah.
Last Chance Texaco, and her description of trying to put to words the magic of what it's like being on stage in front of an audience is something really, really special. So, an artist such as you, MC, do you mind me asking, like, what does a typical year of touring provide in terms of how much you make your money, as opposed to selling albums and CDs and digital streams? Can do you mind giving me a percentage? Like, I make 80% of my money live and 20% from my recorded music. What is it? What's the ratio? Do you mind me asking?
I mean, it's probably 75-80% touring, and maybe 20% something else. The rest of it. There's not a whole lot of money to be made in streaming, as anybody that has been paying attention to those conversations knows.
Yeah.
But I was able to survive this past year for a variety of reasons, and sort of behind the scenes stuff I was doing. So I was able to survive this past year without playing any shows, and will be able to continue to do so until shows pick up for me in December, assuming that everything works out. But if touring was not going to happen for the next 2 or 3 years, I would probably have to find something else to do.
Well, it would be that tough. Do you license your work to films, to television, to commercials? Is that something that you've done much or want to do?
I mean, I haven't. Yes, I do. That is part of what my publishing company does, and so they work for placements in TV and ads and film, and sometimes it happens. There's a lot of job applicants for those openings.
Yeah, true. Well, let's jump into this new album, Quietly Blowing It, that's out on Merge Records on June the 25th. This is maybe a little bit of an abstract question, but as you sit down to record songs and write songs for an album, is there is there something that could be compared to Picasso's Blue Period, or this album is going to be this color or this mood, and this is because this is the mood I'm in right now, and everything is going to kind of go in this one area? Or do the songs just flow out, and wherever I'm at that day, that hour, that's what ends up on the album?
Well, usually what happens is I start writing in this room that you see me in now.
Yeah,
and,
that's your studio. Yeah.
And I usually don't have any intention behind the songs, other than I'm trying to write something that feels good to sing, that feels like I don't understand it completely. Like, there has to be a little bit of mystery to it, so that it keeps me coming back and trying to kind of explore it, understand it. It usually isn't until I've written probably 10 or 15 songs or fragments of songs that I start to understand which of the songs feel like they want to live together, and which are the sort of outliers that probably are not gonna end up being part of this chunk. So for Quietly Blowing It, I think there's 11 songs on it, and I probably wrote maybe 20, and those were the songs that all kind of fell together.
How were you able to make this album given the pandemic? You've got a lot of, and I want you to talk about this, MC, the guests that you have on the album, but how we were able to do that given the pandemic. And please
Yeah,
talk about some of the folks who were on the album with you.
sure. The majority of the album was, so I made a demo of the album in this room, but it was more than just guitar and vocal. Like I basically recorded a version of the album with me playing everything, drums, bass, keys, everything. Because I had very clear ideas about arrangement and even like what I wanted people to play, or sort of general ideas about what I wanted people to play, so that I could come back and say, like, see what I'm doing right there? Just play something like that, but play it better. I'm not a drummer. I can make do, but um, so let's see. The majority of the record we recorded in Durham together, my band and I, and we all were tested. Everyone tested negative. We all wore masks during the recording of it.
Good.
It was maybe 9 months ago now that we did that. In retrospect, like, were we safe enough? Did we take enough precautions? I don't know. It's hard to say. Nobody got sick.
Good.
And so everything was fine. We were all able to walk out of there and it was fine. I felt very strongly at that time that if it was at all possible, we should try and be in a room together making it, both because I thought that everybody needed it. I certainly needed to be around people doing the thing that I'm most happy doing. But also I needed the record to sound like a group of people working together in a room. And I think that's what the record sounds like to me. You can hear a lot of the room on Quietly Blowing It, meaning, like when Matt is playing the drums, you can hear the drums sort of mixing with all the other sounds in the room and bouncing off the studio walls and coming back. That was an important part to me. I just wanted it to feel like that. And then when it came time to add certain overdubs, I had my buddy Zach from the Lone Bellow and the Goldsmith brothers from the band Dawes.
Yes.
Did some singing. One of the songs I wrote with a friend of mine named Gregory Alan Isakov, that was actually written before the pandemic hit. And in fact, like there's a song on the record called Painting Houses. That's the tune that Gregory and I wrote. And as we were writing that was the first time that the idea, the coronavirus was entering the news. And I remember both of us like saying to each other, like, it looks like they closed down some airports in China. And it just kind of, as I was probably at his house in Colorado for, I don't know what, 3 or 4 days. And during that time, you could just see it getting closer. And anyway, that song was written with him. And then I did some songwriting with my friend Aeneas Mitchell, another incredible songwriter.
From Bonnie Light Horseman.
From Bonnie Light Horseman and her own stuff. And she's a Broadway playwright at this point.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, those in the way that I make records, and this record actually feels quite small. There have been times when, the credits on a Hiscold Messenger record can be 20, 25 musicians. So to me, this feels a pretty intimate group of people.
And did you produce the album? Do you generally produce your albums?
I do. I have had people co-produce with me in the past. I'm not against a producer. I just always have a really clear idea of what I want my records to sound like. And when I'm in the studio, I never have any, I never feel the need for someone else's opinion to be directing the proceedings. Like, I'm always very clear about what I'm looking for. So, yeah.
Turning back to Bonnie Light Horseman, I had this weird, incredible moment looking at the liner notes. You wrote the liner notes for this Body Light Horseman album here, which until Bob Dylan's album came along last year, this is still there. There's really no album like this ever. This is like, this is religious music to me, or something like secular religious music. Like your stuff tends to be like that, my friend, where it's like, I don't know what is going on here, but I'm really moved by His Golden Messenger and Bonnie Light Horseman, and Bob Dylan too. And I'm reading the liner notes that you wrote here, and you mentioned specifically a photograph by a guy, and I've got the book here. His name is Danny Lyon, and it's a picture in this book, and I'm going to find the photo. Do you mind talking about this picture? Why you compared this to the music of Bonnie Light Horseman? I'm going to see if I can hold this up to the camera here. Look at that shot.
That's an incredible picture, first of all.
Yes, it is. It sure is.
Well,
it's two prisoners in a penitentiary in Texas playing dominoes, and what they're making is like a skeleton of a man, is what it is.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I love that Bonnie Light Horseman record. Is to me also is like a record that will be with me for life. And I was proud to do a little bit of writing for that record too, just like a verse. But when Josh Kaufman, who's a member of that band and has played in Hiss off and on for many years, when he sent that record to me, I probably had it for a good 9 months before anyone else heard it. And I kept telling everybody, like, wait until you hear this record. Is unbelievable. It's the greatest thing I've heard in years. And it's true. I mean, I think the reception that it got when it was released was validating for me, because I kept telling people, like, when you hear this record, you're not going to believe it. Why did I choose that? Why did I choose that picture? I think I had been looking at that picture. I had a postcard of it that I've been looking for ever since I wrote that. I had a postcard of that Danny Lyon image, and there was something about what those two guys were sort of building together, this image they had created together that was like sort of part chance and part
fate,
like part competition and part working together. I don't know. There was something that connected to the music to me. I wrote those liner notes in Japantown in San Francisco in a hotel.
The thing I was so knocked out. I had just looked at that Danny Lyon book for the first time. I had bought it several months earlier, and I cracked it open and was looking through it and looked through that photo, and then sat down and looked at your liner notes for the first time. And I swear to God, I am not making this up, and thought, he's writing about a photo that I just saw, like MC Taylor's in my living room here. Like, what the hell? And I remember telling my wife, and I'm like, honey, I'm not, this isn't like an LSD flashback or anything here. This is a really strange thing. And I know this is random, but this is really, talk about being on a wavelength or something.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
Yeah. Wow. That is wild.
Yeah. Back to your album. You mentioned that one song, Painting Houses. I think that your new album, these 3 songs in a row, If It Comes in the Morning, into Glory Strums, into Painting Houses. And for me, is it just builds to this emotional climax, and then it ends with the track Sanctuary. Could you talk about those other two songs? These are just also particularly moving tracks on the album, MC, If It Comes in the Morning and Glory Strums. Can you give us a little bit about what the lyrics to those songs are all about, where that comes from?
I think If It Comes in the Morning, I was thinking about, depending on the outcome of things that we want, of contests that we're paying attention to or are involved in, how are we going to behave to one another? The day after the results are announced, right? Like, if things go our way, how are we going to behave to one another? Are we going to be vindictive? Are we going to seek revenge? Or are we going to find some sort of grace with one another? And if things don't go our way, how are we going to behave? Are we going to be despondent? Or are we going to find some kernel of hope somewhere that allows us to keep going? That was what I was thinking about quite a bit with that song. It's a song of hope, but like, I wasn't in a particularly hopeful place when I wrote it. And I think that, some artists that I really look to, like Curtis Mayfield or the Staple Singers, they were really good at those kinds of songs, of creating songs where there's the potential for hope, even if they're not seeming to be in a particularly hopeful situation.
Mm-hmm.
So, that was kind of the territory I was in with those. And then, let's see, Glory Strums.
That comes right after.
Glory Strums is, I don't know. I think part of it is just about I think as we started out this conversation, just the trade-off of, chasing your own dream, and what the cost of that might be.
Yeah. I'm listening to, I did a tribute on my weekend show to musician Alexander Skip Spence, one of the founding member of Jefferson Airplane, and Moby Grape. He would have turned 75 on Sunday. He was just born across the Detroit River in Windsor, Ontario. And you've got it. Wow! Is that the Sundays reissue on vinyl there? What is that?
Yeah, it's the Sundays version.
Yeah, I got. I got this. This is the and more again.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
It's like the 3 CD set. Just this guy was so gifted, but again, and there's so many. I mean, I've been doing radio for too damn long, 38 years, and the number of artists who I revere who've just not gotten the acclaim that they deserve, or maybe they did at first. Moby Grape certainly got a ton of attention at first, but it was one of these bands where like everything that could go wrong went wrong. And Skip Spence recorded this one solo album in the midst of like a true psychotic breakdown. And I think a lot of misinformed people go, oh, that's the Crazy Guy album, like the Crazy Guy, like Syd Barrett from Pink Floyd, which couldn't be more wrong. There is such tender beauty on this album, along with chaos and real harrowing moments, but it's a really fully formed vision that he was doing under the most extraordinarily difficult circumstances. But you like you said at the beginning, MC, sometimes I look at the folks in music like, wow, okay, you're going to pay a price for wanting to be free and do the greatest art form that was ever, to my mind, that ever came down the line. It doesn't. There's there's always this price tag or something like that. At times, few people escape that, and you gotta, gotta rein things in or something. I don't know. What's your secret to surviving? You've had some difficult moments. It sounds like in the last year or two. How did you kind of reel things back in and get back to reality?
I'm fortunate to have a family. Like my wife and I have been together for a really long time, and so we've been together since since long before His Gold Messenger. And I have 2 kids. That provides a really important grounding. Actually, like it's a place that I come back to. And at this point, I'm just like trying to stay alive. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to stay alive. So it's like I'm not really a drinker. I don't do drugs. I'm generally a vegetarian. I exercise, and all of these things are just, because I want to be able to be there, be present for my family. I want to see what comes next, and I want to continue making music. My music like sort of exists in this very sacred place for me, and so I have to be in a generally clear mindset to make it. I don't know that I could. Yeah, I mean, it's not to say that I've been sort of like, clean and sober my entire life, but I am now.
Good to hear.
Yeah.
Good to hear. Before I let you run MC, you did recently a cover version of a really beautiful George Harrison track that is just so moving. Do you mind talking about that before we let you run?
Yeah, sure. I did. I learned how to play George Harrison's "Beware of Darkness," which for people that write songs and play guitar and sing. George Harrison is a funny one because he uses really non-traditional chord changes. So, I just wanted to see if I could learn how to play that song. I mean, I love All Things Must Pass is a really big record for me. It's one that has been with me for more than half my life. Great record, and it's full of weird chord changes. He's kind of like his songs are a little bit like the Grateful Dead, which I think I mentioned in that way. Like something that sounds really obvious is not actually the chord changes do not work the way you think they're going to.
So you were thinking getting back on the road maybe December. Do you have anything officially lined up yet?
Yeah, we have quite a bit of touring booked starting in December. We have not announced the venues yet, but the cities have been announced, and I do not recall when we're going to be back in Ann Arbor.
Okay. All right. Well, keep our eyes on that. Can't wait. It can't happen soon enough. The album coming out June 25th on Merge Records from His Golden Messenger, featuring our friend MC Taylor. It's Quietly Blowing It. It's the follow-up to the Grammy-nominated album Terms of Surrender, which came out in 2019. I can't tell you what a blast this has been to catch up to you, my friend. And
Thanks,
I'm so glad you're doing well, and your music just gladdens our souls here at Ann Arbor. And keep on keeping on, and can't wait to get you by the station and see you in concert. Oh my God, sometime, if not late this year, in 2022. Until then, thanks again, and stay well, okay?
Thank you, Martin. Have a great day.
All right, cheers. See you. Bye-bye.